Hello and welcome to the 12th video in this series, making simple Flappy Robin for the iPad and iPhone using Cocos2d. This video then we're going to look at actually getting some scoring for going over the tubes. You remember that we have inside constants.h we have k-tube score is set to 1, so 1 point per tube. So if we go through a pair of tubes we'll score 2 points. We want now inside intro scene to be able to have a score label on the screen, which means we'll need to have a variable which holds our score, and then we need to add some kind of scoring mechanism into the code, which isn't very difficult, just to keep track of our score. So to start that then we'll make a label, and I'll call this score label, like so, or scroll label as I've written, score label, and we'll keep check in an integer of the game score, calling that game score, like so. I then want to do inside the init function, then down at the bottom before we've got the return self, just set the game score to 0, and before I forget, actually inside the start game function as well, I'm just going to set the game score to 0 inside there. The next thing we're going to do inside the initialization function, then just below the game score equals 0 here, is actually set up our score label, which isn't very difficult to do. The first thing we'll do is set up some constants, because we'll use these for some other labels as well on the screen. So I'll say score font size equals, and I found that 24 is okay, but of course we need to multiply this by the Y scale factor, and I'm just going to copy and paste this line in twice because we have more or less the same writing. So we'll say score position X and score position Y we want as well, and the X then will have as a 12 and the Y will have as a 6. So the way we'll position the label is we'll have the anchor point for the X the very left hand side of the label, so 0, and the anchor point for the Y of the label on the top of the label, so we can position it respective to a corner quite easily. So to create the label is actually fairly easy. We just need to do cc label ttf alloc as usual, and then we can say init with string. I think, yes we can. To start here we just need to have the string as score. I'll say 0. The font name is marker felt, and the font size is then the score font size that we've just declared above. So now then we'll set the anchor point of the score label. So score label and there's set anchor point, and we want CCP and 0 by 1 as I've just talked about with the positionings. Then the positioning of the label itself, then we want to set position CCP, I'll put the comma in there already and close the bracket. So for the X then we simply want the score position X, like so. And then for the Y we want the screen size dot height and then minus the score position Y, because we're coming down from the top of the screen. So our score label is now in the top left hand corner. The next thing I'd like to do is, sorry, hopefully I've just muted it, I needed to cough there. I want to set the colour of the score label to, I've just got a cough again, I apologise. Right, back, apologies. So I want to set the score label colour now, and we'll set the colour to, we do this using set colour RGBA, and then there's CC colour, which we can now say colour with red. We want 1.0. This is always based on a 0 to 1, 0.0 and 0.0 obviously is pure red. And last but not least we can add the score label as a child, so self add child score label, and Z. We'll give it a Z of the Robin, so we'll say Z index KZ index Robin, like so. And that's what we should need to do actually to add our score label. So now just run the application, and you can see that on the top left hand screen we have a nice score label here with 0 at the moment. So now what we need to do then is look at actually scoring the label. To do that, the first thing we'll need is a function that allows us to actually update our label. So we'll call it update score label with the current score, and there's a set string method already available, provided by the label TTF. So we want NS string and then string with format, and the format we want here is score and the percentage %D and then our game score. So this then will update the score label, and let's then here, there's a number of ways we go about doing this. This is the most inefficient of them all, but never mind. Update score label inside here so that we continuously every update the score to the actual score. Now obviously the one thing we're not doing here is actually scoring. You'll remember that the tube has a property of scored, and this property is set then, where am I? Back in intro scene. This property is set then when the tube has been scored, so that we know that we don't score the tube twice, because the way we're going to detect the scoring of the tubes is to say that if the right handmost X of a tube, so that's its, if you take its bounding box, that's its origin X plus its width, and the left handmost X of the robin, so that's right at the edge of the tail, tip of the tail, when the tube's right handmost X is less than the robin's left handmost X, and the robin is completely clear of the tube, and then we will score. So what we can say then here is else if, so if it hasn't collided, we can say tube.scored equals false, so it hasn't already been scored. And what we can also say is and tube.state equals k tube state active, so it's actually active and scrolling across the screen. We can now look at whether the tube is available for us to score or not. So I can say that if tube.boundingbox.origin.x plus the tube.boundingbox.size.width, so that will be then the right handmost X. If that is less than then the robin, let's make this on a new line actually. Oh god, not that. Why, how did I end up with that? If that is less than the robin dot bounding box dot origin dot x, so if the left handmost point of the robin is past the right handmost point x point of the tube, then we can score the tube. So we can say tube.scored is now equal to true, and we can say that the game score plus equals k tube score, which hopefully is here somewhere. Yes it is, which at the moment is 1. So all of that now should actually be all we need to do to actually update our scores on the score label for us. So I'll just run the application and let's see what happens here. Hopefully it does, and I haven't forgotten anything. I've always got this feeling inside that I have. And good, so we have a 1. Let's see if we have a 2 and a 3. Yes, we do. Good. So the scoring seems to be working okay. Now obviously it's not so good at the moment. As I said in the last video, when the robin dies, he goes straight back to the middle of the screen. The tubes are staying there, but we'll polish all that up later on in the series. But for now then, at least we've got the scoring working, and we can start looking at adding sound effects and things like that. So I hope that made some sense. Sorry about the coughing and the voice. It's a little bit croaky today, and see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.